All right, boys, today I'm back with another tier list. We're going to be talking about UFC fighters that need to pack it up immediately and retire, get them out of here, send them to the nursing home, and that's what S tier is going to be. They need to retire immediately. D tier, we're going to be talking about fighters who, they could still compete, but they probably should hang it up as well. So let's get right into it. We're going to start off with, let's go with my boy, Johnny Walker. I'm putting Johnny Walker in the A tier. Listen, just watching Johnny Walker's fights has given me CTE. This dude has taken more brain damage in like the last 6 years than most people will in their entire life, obviously because he's a UFC fighter. But at first, seeing Johnny Walker get knocked out was kind of funny because he got knocked out in goofy ways. Now it's just sad, man. The dude has a family and kids. Like, bro, we don't want to see you get chinned anymore. We know you don't have a chin. There was just a video leaked of him getting dropped in boxing a while back by like a 17-year-old. So listen, Johnny Walker, bro. This dude's one of the most athletically gifted fighters we've ever seen, but given his chin, it's time to hang it up. It's time to send him packing. Johnny Walker, I don't want to see him fight anymore, bro. A tier, maybe S tier if he gets knocked out again, but please, Johnny Walker, consider your brain cells, bro. Let's move on to another fighter, Michael Chiesa. I'm putting Michael Chiesa in the C tier. Now listen, Michael Chiesa is like 37. This dude's striking has looked the same for like the last 10 years, and he was way overhyped for beating Tony Ferguson. Like, bro, you just beat Tony Ferguson. Let's calm it down, brother. Michael Chiesa, he's not good anymore. He never really was good. I remember whenever he got submitted by Kevin Lee back in the day, it was kind of hilarious. Michael Chiesa is that guy that's like known for amazing jiu-jitsu, but still manages to get submitted by like everybody. But either way, Michael Chiesa in the C tier. I don't really see him beating any top fighters. I mean, I guess you could put on fun fights, but Michael Chiesa is boring. So, yeah. Let's move on to the next fighter on the tier list. Jared Cannonier. Listen, I'm putting Cannonier in the B tier. Jared Cannonier, I think, he's 40 years old. He's almost 41. He just got busted up in his last 2 fights. I don't think he's competitive anymore against anybody in the top 10, so I think it might be time to hang it up for Jared Cannonier. Might be on steroids. Who knows? I claim that about a lot of fighters because most of them probably are. But, yeah, bro, I don't think he can compete at the top anymore. He's way too slow, and you can tell his chin's starting to take some wear and tear. So, bro, listen, you had a long career. You're 40 years old. You had your title shot. Hang it up, man. Build a family. There's no reason to take any more head trauma. All right? That's my advice if you see this. Let's move on to the coke head himself, Conor McGregor. Put him in the S tier. Listen, if you've seen any of Conor McGregor's recent runarounds at BKFC or just in general, this dude's coked out of his mind. This dude's done more cocaine than every celebrity in Hollywood. It's incredible. Whether he's on his yacht at a BKFC event, you can guarantee Conor McGregor's snorting a line. So, with that being said, if I want to see Conor back, I want to see him take the sport seriously. I want to see him training it, and I just don't see that. I don't think Conor McGregor is going to be fighting again, which is good because I don't think he needs to. Dude has like 4 kids and he's out partying every night. Like, he just needs to tone it down. He's living that millionaire cocaine life. But yeah, I think he just needs to pack it up. Let's not even book him another fight. I don't think it's worth it. Conor McGregor in the S tier. I don't ever want to see him in the octagon again. Let's move on to another fighter. Colby Covington. Bro, I'm putting Colby Covington in the C tier. Listen. This guy is one of the most privileged fighters in UFC history. That title shot against Leon was one of the most undeserved title shots. He has like no wins over anybody relevant in like the last 5 years. And yeah, he needs to stick to poker. His shtick is getting old. People are even his interviews on Submission Radio just aren't what they used to be. So I think Colby should pack it up. He looks like he has a great career in poker ahead of him. He's been doing well in that. And yeah, he's just ducking everybody in the division. He's ducking Ian Gary, which would be a perfect fight for him to like just roast Ian Gary at the press conference and get him emotional and maybe even beat him. But at this point, dude, Colby Covington, I'm tired of him. I'm tired of waiting for him to fight. Get him out of here. I don't even care to see him fight anymore. Doesn't even excite me. Who knows? He might get a win and get a title shot knowing him, even though he's 0-3 in title fights. But let's move on to another fighter on this tier list. Sad to say it, but Stephen Thompson. Now listen, I'm going to put Stephen Thompson in the D tier because I still think he can compete with some of the guys in the top 15, but, bro, he just got slept by Buckley. I don't think Buckley sleeps as Stephen Thompson in his prime 5 years ago. I think he would tune up Buckley. But at 41 years old, his chin's not the same. He's just not that guy anymore, man. And it's sad to say because I love Wonder Boy. One of the best strikers in UFC history, but if you pressure him, and wrestle him and get him a little tired, you're probably going to chin him. He's been chinned twice in the UFC now. He's been dropped a bunch of times by Woodley and submitted by Shavkat. We don't want to see the Karate Van Man take any more damage. So listen, Wonder Boy, if you want to do a fun striking matchup with Michael Venom Page, might be a snooze fest, but go for it. But I'd like to see you retire, stick to coaching. I know you say you want to fight till you're 45, but let's not take any more brain damage. You're a nice guy. Let's keep it that way, man. Let's move on to another fighter on this list, Anthony Smith. He's going in the... No, he's not D. He's going in the S tier. Listen, Anthony Smith, it's time to pack it up, brother. Anthony Smith has so many losses, I couldn't even... This dude's like 12 and like 10 in the UFC, 13 and 10, something crazy. He has a lot of losses on his record. And in those losses, he's taken so much damage. Like, he got beat to a pulp by Magomed Ankalaev. He got destroyed by Khalil Roundtree, destroyed by Glover Teixeira, destroyed by John Jones. Like, how many times are we going to see Anthony Smith get his ass beat before we say, okay, this dude's had enough brain damage, let's get him out of here? I mean, now he's fighting Dominic Reyes in December, I believe, at UFC 310. Good matchup, but dude, I think Dominic Reyes is going to finish Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith needs to stick to podcasts, and he's actually solid at it, and the fight analyst part of the sport. But I don't want to see bald-headed Smith, who couldn't even stop a burglar at his house, fighting the UFC anymore. Like, he's not that guy. He never really was that guy, but he's really not that guy now. And the CTE is building. So Anthony Smith, pack it up, my guy. You're in the S tier today. Let's move on to another fighter, Henry Cejudo. Listen, Henry Cejudo, he's 5'4". He's not beating anyone in the top 10 or maybe even 15 at bantamweight. He's almost 38 years old in one of the lighter weight divisions. And as we know, whenever you're in the lighter weight divisions, the older you get, the harder it is for you. And listen, there's no easy matchups for Henry Cejudo. If he gets put against Sean O'Malley, I think he gets KO'd. If he gets put up against most people in the top 15, just about all of them, I think he gets finished. He's going to be way too slow. He's way out of his prime. He's retired once. He has one foot out the door. I don't want to see Henry Cejudo come back. Stick to your little podcast with Kamaru Usman. We don't want to see triple C. Let's see retired C, okay? Need to see you later, brother, because I'm done. I don't want to see this little midget fight again. Let's move on to another fighter in this video. Listen, Bobby Green. Bobby Green's going in the same tier. I like Bobby Green, but listen, it's time for Bobby Green to hang it up. Actually, I'm going to put Bobby Green in the B tier. Bobby Green in the B tier just for the simple fact that he's been getting finished a lot. And that finish against Jalen Turner was so brutal. That looked like irreversible brain damage. Like, Jalen Turner hit him like in the head like 8 or 9 times unanswered on the ground. Like, sent him into the shadow realm. Thank goodness Paddy Pimblett only choked him out and didn't knock him out, because that'd have been sad. He was knocked out by Drew Dober, knocked out by Dustin Poirier back in the day, knocked out by Jalen Turner recently, took a ton of damage against Fiziev. Like, Bobby Green has had wars and been knocked out so many times. So Bobby Green, if you hear him in interviews, he's already showing early signs of CTE. The fact that he changed his name to King at age 37 is a sign of CTE. But Bobby Green, hang it up, brother. You had a great career, gave us entertaining fights. I don't want to see you take any more brain damage like the other guys on this list. So, yeah, Bobby Green in the B tier. Let's move on to another fighter in this tier list. Listen, Cody Garbrandt. I'm putting Cody Garbrandt in the A tier. Cody Garbrandt, sorry about that. Cody Garbrandt, as we know, he's taken a ton of brain damage. He's been KO'd by TJ Dillashaw twice. He's been busted up by Rob Font. He was low-key busted up by Dominic Cruz, even though nobody talks about it. And then he was knocked out by Cara France. He was submitted by Davison Figueiredo, knocked out by Pedro Munoz. Like, what else do we need to see? Cody Garbrandt, 33 years old. I think you should send it packing. The signs of CTE is hitting him as well. The fact that this dude got a cross over his eye, that if that ain't CTE, listen, I don't know what is. But yeah, dude, Cody Garbrandt, exactly. He needs to retire. Exactly. So yeah. Let's move on to another one. This is not a very popular fighter, but an old head nonetheless. I'm putting Tim Means in the B tier. Listen, Tim Means, 40 years old, 1-4 in his last 5. Bro, if you're at the point in your career where you're getting submitted by Court McGee, it's time to hang it up. Like, I like Tim Means, the Dirty Bird. He was cool at one time, but at this stage in his career, hang it up. You don't need to take any more brain damage. You don't need to take any more knockdowns or any more shots to the head. Like, bro, you had a good career. Hang it up, or you might end up in S tier, like the next guy I'm about to mention. Nick Diaz. Bro, it's so sad that they're having Nick Diaz fight Vicente Luque, who's also going to be on this list. But at this point, dude, even Vicente Luque, post-brain hemorrhage and post-losing to Joaquin Buckley pretty sadly, I think he destroys Nick Diaz. Like, Nick Diaz is 41 years old. He's built like a bag of silly putty. We don't want to see him anymore. He's not training properly. If he's not fighting high, which he won't be able to do because the UFC doesn't allow it, Nick Diaz is not going to be able to do much. He's going to come in the fight probably undertrained and probably because he needs more money, even though his brother Nate's rich. Listen, I don't want to see Nick Diaz take any more damage. The Robbie fight 3 years ago, he looked old. Imagine how he's going to look at 41 years old now. Dude, listen, I know people like Nick Diaz, but I don't want to see him fight again. So, Nick Diaz, please pack it up. Please let this next fight. I hope he doesn't even make it to the fight with Vicente Luque. I don't want to see him get finished again. Either way, let's move on to another fighter on the list. Listen, Gilbert Burns, I'm putting him in the D tier just because Gilbert Burns, he looked flat in his last fight, and even the fight before that against Belal Muhammad, I know he was injured, but he didn't look great. He hasn't looked the same in the last few years. He got finished by JDM. He was doing okay in that fight, but he got finished. He's taken a lot of damage. And I think the reason I put him in D tier with Wonderboy, he's kind of on that same level with Wonderboy. Like, he could probably compete with some guys in the top 15, but he's probably going to start losing to most of them, given that he's getting up there in age. He's like 38. So, yeah, Gilbert Burns, he's still good, but how many people in the top 15 can he really beat? Does he really want to take more brain damage? He's never going to get to the title, which is his ultimate goal in the sport. So, I think him in the D tier, just because he can probably still have some fun fights, but I'd still like to see him pack it up and call it a career. Maybe take on like some UFC Brazilian commentating or something. I don't know. Stick to training in the gym, teaching some jiu-jitsu. Let's move on to another fighter on the tier list. I'm going Matt Frevola in the B tier. Listen, the steamroller Frevola, this dude's been KO'd a bunch of times. And that recent KO, that knee to the face, I forgot by who, dude. That was career ending. That was one of the most brutal knockouts I've ever seen. I don't want to see Matt Frevola fight again. He was knocked out by Benoit Saint-Denis, and then he was completely destroyed by the knee recently, and he was knocked out by Terrence McKinney. Matt Frevola's taken a ton of damage. I know he's only 33 years old, but that age isn't always correlating with if you should retire. Matt Frevola is a perfect example of, listen, man, you've taken enough damage. You're never going to be champion. You're never probably even going to make it into the top 10. Hang it up. Go do some coaching, do some outside gigs, start a YouTube channel like Volk, start cooking or something, but no more, dude, that was sad to see. I don't want to see Matt Frevola fight anymore. Let's move on to another fighter on this list. Old man Jim Miller. We're putting him in the C tier. Listen, Jim Miller, he's been in the UFC forever, since like 2007, 2008. He's fought at UFC 100, 200, and 300. He's a legend. I think it's time for him to hang it up and pack it. He got busted up pretty bad by Bobby Green at UFC 300. It was quite sad, but I don't think he's the reason I put him in C tier under Bobby Green is because I don't think he's as bad of a state as Bobby Green in his career. Listen, Jim Miller's not getting chinned every single fight and building CTE. Well, he is building CTE, but he's not getting chinned every single fight. He's actually won a lot in the last 5 years or so, which is impressive given his age. But I'd still like to see Jim Miller hang it up. 40, 41 years old. He's had a great career. Let's not give him to the new up-and-comers and see another knockout or another finish or just another lopsided beatdown. Yeah, Jim Miller in the C tier. Let's move on to another fighter on this list. Good old Holly Holm. I am sick and tired of seeing Holly Holm in the women's rankings. She's, 43 years old now? And she's like 2-5 in the UFC. Or not in the UFC. She's like 2-5 in her last 7 or something like that. 3-5 in her last 8. Something wild. Holly Holm, she just got destroyed by Kayla Harrison in the last 8 or 9 months. Listen, I don't want to see Holly Holm fight anymore. She has nothing for the sport anymore. She's had a long career. I mean, whenever she fought Ronda Rousey, she was 34, which is crazy because that was such a long time ago. And now she's 43. Holly Holm, hang it up, even though you could probably still beat most of the women's bantamweight division because the women's bantamweight division is awful. But yeah, I'd like to see Holly Holm hang it up. No one should be fighting at 43. Maybe Yoel Romero because he's a freak. But yeah, Holly Holm in the A tier. Let's move on to another fighter. Curtis Blades, I'm putting in the B tier. Listen, Curtis Blades, he's only 33 and he just fought for the interim belt. But let's not talk about his last fight was for the interim belt. Let's talk about how he's been knocked out by Tom Aspinall, Sergey Pavlovich, Derek Lewis, and Francis Ngannou twice. This dude has taken so much brain damage. He already has a lisp. Listen, Curtis Blades. You've seen the studies recently on Shane Carwin coming out from the UFC antitrust lawsuit, and and all that. Let's not end up like Shane Carwin, brother. Let's call it quits while we can. You've taken a lot of damage, a lot of knockouts. Your chin is gone at this point. I don't think Curtis Blades has a chin. So going forward, most people are going to be able to knock him out. I mean, he better be lucky Jelton Almeida didn't have knockout power. He probably would have chinned him. But listen, a lot of these fighters, like Matt Frevola and Curtis Blades, they're still only 33 years old, but they've taken enough damage, enough knockouts. I don't want to see it anymore. Curtis Blades is going to end up like the next Alistair Overeem, and we don't need to see that. So in the B tier he goes. Let's move on to another fighter, Ralphie Dos Nachos. Listen, Rafael dos Anjos, I think he's 39 now. Nothing left to prove in the sport. I guess he could have a few fun fights in the welterweight division. I think he said he's not coming back to lightweight. But listen, I'd like to see RDA retire. The amount of times I said listen in this video. I like to see RDA retire. He has nothing to prove. He's fought, if you look at RDA's strength of schedule, he's fought some of the hardest lineup of opponents out of any UFC fighter ever. Like, this dude's resume and the people he's fought against is insane. But outside of financially, I don't think he needs to fight anymore. He's been champion. He's been there, done that. He's had runs at welterweight. RDA, let's hang it up. Let's not get chinned anymore, brother. You have a family. Yeah, you have a life ahead of you. I'm sure you could have pretty good success in coaching and maybe even do some grappling tournaments. RDA has underrated grappling. But I'll put him in the C tier because I don't think he's completely washed like a lot of the fighters above him. So he is washed, though. Let's not get it twisted. Let's move on to another fighter. Paul Craig. I'm putting him in the S tier. Listen, Paul Craig strikes like he's underwater. He has some of the worst striking I've ever seen. Him versus Jimmy Crute would be an hilarious matchup just for how bad the striking would be. But Paul Craig, I think he's going to get chinned against Bo Nickel. Stop. Paul Craig, he was talking about retiring when he was like 35. Now he's like, what, 36, 37? And he's getting chinned a lot these days. Like, he was recently chinned. Like, dude, Paul Craig, I know you have a win over Jamal Hill and Magomed Ankalaev, two people in the top 5 at light heavyweight, but, dude, that was ages ago, and they were both triangle Hail Marys. Well, the one against Jamal Hill wasn't, but the one against Magomed Ankalaev was. But listen, in all seriousness, Paul Craig at the bottom of S tier because I don't think he's as bad as the ones above him. But listen, I don't want to see Paul Craig take any more damage. Bear Jew, hang it up. Hang it up, man. We don't need to see it anymore. We've seen enough. Let's move on to the GOAT, the real GOAT, Michael Johnson. I'm putting him in the put Michael Johnson in the B tier. Listen, Michael Johnson, this dude's been fighting since I was a toddler, probably. 30, 38, 39 years old. Been chinned a bunch of times in his career by Josh Emmett, by, who else was he chinned? He was destroyed by Habib. He was chinned by Diego Ferreira and the one against Josh Emmett. They were both very similar KOs. Scary KOs. Listen, at 38, 39, I don't think Michael Johnson should come back. I don't even know if he plans to come back, but this is just in case. Michael Johnson, if you ever see this video, retire, brother. Hang it up. At this point, I think he came out with the video talking about how, like, he's been with the UFC for, like, 13 years and he has, like, no money to show for it, which is kind of sad, but listen, you proved up to this point that you're not going to make any more money. So let's not further that. Let's enter a new career and not take any more brain damage, because that's ultimately what you do whenever you get into your 40s and you're still taking blows to the head. Let's move on to another fighter, Vicente Luque. I'm putting in the A tier. Now, he's going in the A tier just for the simple fact that this guy has had a brain hemorrhage, and I think the fight against Joaquin Buckley showed a lot. I don't think Vicente Luque is not that guy anymore. He doesn't move his head, and that's going to be more noticeable now more than ever, being that if you saw the Joaquin Buckley fight, it was pretty sad. He just kind of shelled up and let himself get TKO'd. I don't think Vicente Luque is a warrior anymore. He used to be. He used to just be like just stonehead, come forward and just out-grit you and knock you out. But now, that's not happening. He took a year off after that brain hemorrhage, which was super scary. I don't think I've ever heard anyone else in the UFC get a brain hemorrhage. So just off of that health scare alone, I'd say it's time for him to pack it up. Can't put him in the S tier. I guess you could put him and Paul Craig on the same level, but I'm going to put him in the A tier. Yeah, no secret why he needs to retire. Let's move on to another fighter on this list, Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush, I'm putting him in the C tier. Listen, he's been chinned back-to-back against Oliveira and really bad against Orman. That was a crazy knee and finish on the ground. And let's not forget, Beneil Dariush has been chinned by Alexander Hernandez back in the day and a brutal KO by Edson Barboza. This guy has been chinned plenty of times, and he's been in wars. He also looks like he's 45, even though he's like 35. But listen, Beneil Dariush, listen, bro, no reason to take any more punishment or brain damage or hits to the jaw. We've seen it a million times. And I don't know who is going to, maybe he could fight like Garbrandt or something if he is going to fight. Fight somebody who has like no KO power. Don't fight, maybe fight Fiziev. Fiziev's power is a little overrated, but listen, I think at this point, Beneil Dariush's chin is softened up. He's never getting to the title ever. So at this point, he's just going to be like fighting for money. And I don't think he needs to. I think he can find other career avenues. So put him in the C tier just because he's not the worst of the worst. But I'd like to see him retire. Second to last on this list, listen, Clay Guida. Bro, Clay Guida has been fighting since I was in my dad's ball sack. I don't know what else to say. This dude, he's gritty, he's tough, he's crafty, but at 42, 43 years old, however old he is, I think he's fighting Chase Hooper coming up. Dude, Chase Hooper's going to twist Clay Guida into a fucking pretzel. The Carpenter. Listen, man, this dude had a war with Diego Sanchez ages, but it's time to hang it up, Clay Guida. We've seen it a million times. Clay Guida, he's never getting another finish in the UFC. I can't even tell you the last time Clay Guida got a finish. Like, what is the UFC having Clay Guida fight for at this point? Up-and-comers like Chase Hooper, I guess. But I'm putting him in the A tier just because he's in his 40s and he's fighting at 155. The lower bracket you are and the older you are, the more likely you are to lose your speed faster. And you might have a little bit of pop, but Clay Guida doesn't have any pop anyway. So we'll put him in the A tier. Because, yeah, he's had his career. Last but not least on the list, Tony Ferguson. Dude, I'm putting Tony Ferguson in the S tier. It's no secret. Out of any fighter in the entire UFC right now, Tony Ferguson needs to retire more than anybody. I don't think he beats a single fighter on the entire roster. I don't. Even flyweights included. Maybe women fighters, but, dude, the men's division, Tony Ferguson is not beating anybody. He's 40 years old, nearly 41. He's on an 8-fight losing streak. And he's even still in denial, talking about with Demetrius Johnson jokingly saying he's too old to retire. He's not retiring. He kept one glove because he was coming back. Like, Tony, nobody wants to see you fight, bro. We care about you. He's already shown scares of CTE and manic episodes in the past, so him taking more brain damage is just scary. He's tried every training trick in the book to get a win. I just think that fight with Justin Gaethje in 2020 changed him. He's never going to be the same guy, and he's not the same guy, and yeah. I want to see Tony Ferguson hang it up. Obviously, I think 99.9% of the population wants to see Tony Ferguson hang it up, unless you just hate him. He's bleeding CTE. It's sad to watch. Dana White in the UFC, stop giving him fights. Because at the end of the day, Tony Ferguson and his team are not stopping him. So the UFC needs to do something and stop just milking cash off this dude. It's sad to watch. But yeah, that's it for the video, guys. UFC fighters that need to retire. Let me know if you would add anyone on this list, or you would take off anyone on this list. This is my list of fighters I think who should hang it up. Get them out of here. A lot of them probably could still hang in there with some of the fighters in the UFC, but most of them need to pack it up and get out of here because I'm tired of seeing brain damage, bro. I don't watch the UFC for brain damage. I watch it for the skill aspect. Obviously, brain damage is a part of it. Either way, I appreciate you watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed. And thank you.